Ladies and gentlemen, let's do this again. I'm going to reintroduce myself, and I want everybody on your feet, okay? Now, don't do this for me, do this for you. So I'm going to walk back in. I'm going to reintroduce myself. Everybody, 1, 2, 3. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Ryan Allen! Now, I'm not asking you to do that for me. I'm asking you to do that for you. Because if you can't create enough energy for yourself, how can you expect for me to create that energy for you? I know every single one of you guys that are here don't need motivation. You see, the people who need motivation are in the empty chairs. They need a reason to get up in the morning. They need a reason to show up. They're looking for external motivation for somebody to bring them to this event. And that's not the reason why you came here today. You didn't come here to get motivated. You're already motivated. Every single one of us are already the top in our industry. The top 1%ers. People who not only want to make themselves proud, they want to make their families proud. So before I begin, I want to acknowledge each and every one of you guys. Because you showed up here today to learn, to grow, because you're hungry. Because you guys want more. Because you know that you have more potential. I was talking to Taylor, and he told me that there's people in this room earning $100,000 a year, $250,000 a year, people earning $500,000, people earning 7 figures. And there's some people who are earning multiple 7 figures. Let's give it up for them. See, because if you can't learn to celebrate other people's success, how could you ever want anyone else to celebrate your own success? So when you see somebody achieving a massive goal, first thing you should do is clap for them. Even if you're poor, even if you've never made a sale, even if you've never achieved anything. When you see someone who's thriving, someone who's doing something special with their life, ask them how they did it. Cheer them on. In fact, encourage them. Because one day when you need that same encouragement, somebody will do the same thing for you. You got to put out what you expect to get back. Now, before I begin, I want everybody to close your eyes. Everybody close your eyes. I want everyone in here to remember a moment in their childhood. A moment that was painful. The day that someone told you you couldn't do it. You're not going to be anyone. You're dumb. You're stupid. Maybe a parent told you something. Maybe it was a friend or family. Do you have that moment? The moment that somebody doubted you. The difficult childhood that each and every one of us have gone through. Okay, great. Now open your eyes. You see, you're here today because God, the universe, whatever you believe, isn't done with you. It's because someone believes in you. And it's because your purpose comes from your pain. And only when you learn to heal yourself and help yourself do you have the opportunity to heal or help others. So before I get into confidence, I want to tell you a story. I'm going to be raw, I'm going to be real, and I'm going to be authentic. This is a difficult story for me to share because it's a story of my own life. See, growing up, I had an alcoholic mother and a drug addict for a father. When my mother and father were together before I got into the picture, they had a happy marriage. They were raising myself and my sister, and they loved us both very much. Up until the day that my father's mother decided to commit suicide. She took her own life. And see, when you're a kid and you're growing up, no one prepares you for something like that. No one tells you, hey, if your mom ever takes her life, this is how you want to respond. This is how you want to react. In fact, it's very, very different. When something catastrophic like that happens, you don't know how to react. And so my father, he didn't know what to do. So he became violent. Violent with me, violent with my sister, and violent with my mother. And my mother said, I can't take it anymore. Your father's got to go. But my father was loyal and he didn't want to leave the family. He said he'll go to counseling, he'll figure it out. But he couldn't, but he didn't. So my mother did something that she told me years later was wrong. She said to my dad, hey, I cheated on you. I'm seeing another man. My father didn't know how to react, so he went to swing, punched her, she ducked, and he put his hand through the wall. That was the day my mom said, I've had enough, And my father said, okay, I'll leave the family. Now my mother was left having to raise 2 kids, both myself and my sister. She was a single mom. She's working 2-3 jobs trying to put food on the table. And she didn't have enough time for me. You see, as a kid, I struggled in school, and so I needed extra help, extra attention. But because my mother was always working 2-3 jobs, and my father wasn't really in the picture, he was dealing with his own mental health issues, the only people that were there to help me were teachers, mentors, people in school. And luckily, I loved being in class. I loved being around positive people. I loved telling jokes. I loved getting that attention because I didn't get it at home. And so I told my mother, hey, I need some extra help. And she said, no problem. That's why the teachers are there. In fact, I have my mother, your grandmother. She's going to be there to take care of you. And up until I was 8 years old, my grandmother took me everywhere. She took me to events. She took me to appointments. She took me to church. We did everything together. She became my mom. She became my new best friend. And I was so grateful that I had her. Up until one night, my grandmother got sick. We had to go to the hospital, and I didn't understand what all the commotion was. I sat in the waiting room, and my mother walked in crying. I said, Mom, what's going on? Is everything okay? As an 8-year-old kid? She said, no. Grandmother's having emergency surgery, and she's not going to make it out. I just had my final conversation with her. You see, my mother didn't know how to react, and neither did I, because I relied on my grandmother, and so did my mother. She relied on my grandmother. This was somebody who was a free babysitter. This was somebody that my mom could count on. This was somebody my mom thought would always be there to take care of me and my sister. But now she was gone. And just like my father didn't know how to react when he lost his mother, my mother didn't know how to react when she lost her mom. So she had a nervous breakdown. And as an 8-year-old kid, how do you react when your mother starts having a nervous breakdown and your father's not in the picture? I didn't know how to react. All I knew is that my mom started to change her schedule. She started going out. She started drinking. She started hanging out at the bar. And she eventually found a new boyfriend. Now, this boyfriend, he was an alcoholic. He loved to drink, and he encouraged my mother to do so. We've all heard you're a product of your environment. The bad habits that your friends have, you'll pick those up. Well, it's no different when you're young or when you're an adult. When you're 40 years old or 45 years old. My mother picked up those same bad habits. And so, every single day through my childhood, I see my mother's boyfriend who lived with us come inside the house. He'd scream at my mom. He'd yell at her. He'd get violent. And this was nothing new to me, because I remember being 4, 5, 6 years old. I seen my grandfather get violent. But he always stopped being violent every time I walked in the room, because he said, I don't want to do anything while the kid's in the room. So I always thought, hey, I could protect my grandmother. This is pretty cool. I'm like her protector. And then I tried to do the same thing with my mom, but that didn't work. You see, my mom's new boyfriend, he didn't care if I was in the room. He didn't care if my sister was there. He continued to yell, continued to be violent, because that's what alcohol does to you. Causes you to act out of character. And so my mother said, Ryan, if the police ever get called, here's what you need to do. You know it's rough when you have a protocol on what to do when the police get called when you're 8 years old. My mom said, if the police ever get called by the neighbors, or I call the cops on him, or he calls the cops on me, or the neighbors call the cops because there's a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling, a lot of violence, I need to make sure that you hide. Why do I need to hide, Mom? Well, you need to hide because if the police find you, and there's alcohol, and there's violence in the house, they're going to take you away. They're going to put you in a foster home. They're going to put you somewhere that you don't want to be, and you're never going to see me, Dad, or family ever again. And worst of all, they'll split you up between you and your sister. So when the police got called, I did exactly what my mom said. When I seen the red and blue flashing lights, I hid underneath my bed for what felt like hours. I hid underneath there because I was scared of what would happen if the police found me. The police would come inside the home. They'd ask my mom, hey, are there children here? Are there kids in this house? No, there's no kids here. No, there is kids here, but they're gone. They're being taken care of by someone else. So the police would come in, they'd flash their flashlights, they'd look for me, look for my sister, and I would sit underneath the bed petrified. This would happen again and again and again. And this was a common theme of my childhood. Alcohol and violence. Till eventually my mom said, I've had enough. I'm done with this man. He's scaring my kids, he's scaring me, he's not good for me. But you know how it is when you're in a broken relationship? Sometimes you're too afraid to leave. But eventually my mom mustered up the courage to leave. And so she found a new man at the same bar. He was also an alcoholic. He was a car salesman, and he was a drug addict. And him and I did a lot together. We went fishing, we hung out. I said, man, I didn't know he was an alcoholic and a drug addict. I thought he was a new man. I said, Mom, you found the winner. So I'm 10, 11, 12, hanging out with this man. By the time I reached 13 years old, he introduced me to weed behind my mother's back. You see, I didn't fear the consequences because my father wasn't in the picture. He wasn't there to tell me, Ryan, don't do that. Ryan, respect your mother. Ryan, don't do drugs. Focus in school. I didn't have any consequences. See, my mom's busy working 2-3 jobs. She wasn't there to tell me what's right and what's wrong. Half the time, she didn't know what was going on. And so I started smoking weed. And I told the kids in school, hey, this is what I'm doing. And they said, wow, that's pretty cool. Your mom's a rock star. Your stepfather, he's the one who introduced you? I know some older kids that not only smoke weed, they sell weed. I know your mom lives off food stamps and you guys have no money and she's working 2-3 jobs. The best way to get off the streets is to start selling this stuff. So I started hanging out with the drug dealers. 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. My life was smoking weed before school. My life was smoking weed after school, partying on the weekends. Oh, and I'd even steal the alcohol from my mom's liquor cabinet. And I'd bring it to school and we'd all drink together. Because that's what the cool kids did, right? You see, when you're a product of your environment, all you want to do is impress the people around you. Even if it's the wrong crowd. Even if it's the wrong people to impress. So although I was struggling in school, you see, in school they called me the dumb kid. They called me a SPED. Ryan's a SPED. And that stood for special education. And I seen how the teachers and the classmates treated me. They treated me different because I couldn't keep up with the rest of the class. I'd always have way more questions than the rest of the students. Excuse me, can you explain that again? Excuse me, can you go back one page? Excuse me, what chapter are we on? Did everyone do their homework? I didn't. You see, I brought my homework home, but my mother wasn't there to help me. My father wasn't there to help me. My grandmother's no longer in the picture, and my stepfather's too busy getting high, smoking crack, or smoking weed. So I started to fall behind. And I said, what's the point of me trying in school? I'm not going to be anybody. I have an alcoholic mom. I have a drug addict for a father. No one at home to support me, and all my friends, they don't think about the future. They focus on today. And so that's what I did. Started hanging out with the wrong kids. Eventually, when you hang out with the wrong people, bad things happen. Have you heard that? Well, that's exactly what happened. You see, when you hang out with a drug dealer, you become a target. Other people know you have what? Drugs, and you probably have cash on you. Because you don't bring your money to the bank, you're 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. So my father, he wasn't there. I feared the consequences of what he would do if he found out that I was doing the same things he was doing. You know, sometimes parents say, do as I say, not as I do, right? But that's pretty hard to do because you look up to your parents as an example. You look up to your friends as an example. And if a good example doesn't pop up in your life, a bad example will, whether you want them to or not. And so in school, they called me the dumb kid. I started falling behind. What took a kid one page to read and he understood it, I had to read that same page 100 times. And I said, hey, school's just not for me. And because I started hanging out with the drug dealers and the bad kids, like I said, bad things happen. So eventually we got robbed, both me and my friend. They took all our stash of weed, they took all our money, they took all our belongings. And I said, man, this is tough. But did we stop? No. No, we kept smoking weed. We kept drinking. We kept partying, hanging out with the girls, doing what the cool kids did. Till eventually we got robbed again. Except this time, it wasn't in person. I was at school. I had come home from school. I seen my front door open. Why was my front door open? Okay. And I walked inside my house and I seen down the hallway that my bedroom door was kicked in. See, my bedroom door was kicked in because I always locked my bedroom door before I left to school. Because my friend, he was too scared to keep the weed and the drugs at his house. So he said, Ryan, your mom's cool. She don't know what you're doing. Let's keep it at your house. And I seen the entire house was robbed. I seen my bedroom was robbed. I seen the stash of weed that was my friend's, that was gone too. Who could have done this? Who robbed my house? Well, it would surprise you, it was actually the person in the room right next to mine. This was a man that my mom found on Craigslist. He was addicted to crack, and he was a meth addict. You see, people say more money, more problems. I say no money or a lack of money, more problems. Because when you don't have money, when you don't have resources, it causes rational human beings to do things that they would never do, to support their addiction or to pay the bills. And so my mother found this man on Craigslist without doing a background check because that's how bad she needed the money. And then the third and final time someone came into the room, we didn't stop. We kept selling drugs, kept hanging out, kept partying. Someone came in with a baton. They came in with a weapon. Both me, my friend, the girls, a bunch of people over, and they tried to rob me in person. So I grabbed a dumbbell off the floor, and he left. But we still got robbed, kept some of our stash. But I said I was done. You see, sometimes you reach a moment in your life where you say, no more. See, the decisions you make determine the roads you take. And I was going down a very dark path. I was going to end up like the two people I did not admire, my mother and my father. So at this moment, I looked myself in the mirror and I said, Ryan, you can't keep living this way. I started to cry, but not because I was sad, because I was frustrated. Frustrated with who I had become. Frustrated that my father wasn't in my life. At 14, 15, 16 years old, I received letters from my dad while he was in jail. See, my dad got locked up for hanging out with the wrong people. My mother had an amazing heart, and she was an amazing person, and she was always there for me to talk to her when she wasn't drinking. And my father had an amazing heart. But when you hang out with the wrong people and you pick up the wrong habits, it brings out the worst in you. And so I remember calling my dad on the phone, 14, 15, 16. Hey, Dad, it's Ryan. Just wanted to let you know I love you, I miss you, can't wait to see you when you get out. Have a 2-minute phone call. I'm reading your letters. Man, they touch my heart. You know, I'm so proud that you're trying to change your life. Sometimes we prop our friends up and we prop our parents up because you don't want to see the reality. We see them in a better light. And my mother would take me and my sister to go visit my dad in jail. He'd sit across the table and I'd go to hold his hand and the guy would say, hey, no touching. Because they were afraid that maybe I was going to give my dad drugs or a weapon. And I told my dad, hey, can't wait to see you when you get out. So eventually when I made that decision, no more drugs, no more weed, no more partying, I'm done. I'm sick of getting robbed, sick of hanging out with the wrong people, I'm sick of feeling depressed. See, the man you see here today hasn't always been so confident. As a kid, I was insecure, lost, and unsure of myself. I didn't know what I was going to become or what I'm going to do with my life. All I knew was hanging out with the wrong people caused me to make some bad decisions. And so when I looked in the mirror and I told myself that I'm sick and tired of being this man, when I looked myself in the mirror and I said that I'm frustrated with who I had become, I made a decision to give up the bad habits, a decision to change my life. And so I went to school, told all my friends, hey, look, I'm cutting all you guys off. Deleting all your numbers, I'm blocking your numbers, no more weed, no more drugs, no more partying. In fact, I actually want to get good in school. I want to start studying. I want to focus on my future. They laughed at me. They said, come on, man. You're Ryan, the sped, the dumb kid. The only way you're going to make it out of poverty is selling drugs. We party on the weekends. We hang out. We smoke weed. This is what we do. This is who you are. And I said, no, that's who you are. I'm showing up as a different individual. And I prayed that day for the first time. And so I started going to school, hanging out with the right kids. I started asking the smart kids, the kids who actually cared about school and got straight A's, hey, are you that much smarter than me, or is there something different that you're doing? And what I came to find out is that they weren't much different than me at all. They actually just cared about their education. They actually just cared about their future. They actually just wanted to become a better person. And so I started modeling their success. They studied before school. I started studying before school. When they had questions, they raised their hand. If they didn't understand something, they asked the teacher. They asked the teacher because they didn't want to fall behind. And I said, hey, I don't want to fall behind either. So for the first time in my life, I took school seriously. I had shifted my identity. I shifted who I was. And I got straight A's for the first time in my life. I celebrated my success. And I had to be my own cheerleader. Because my mother wasn't in the picture to celebrate with me, and neither was my father. Sometimes you have to be your own cheerleader. Sometimes you have to lift yourself up. A lot of times people live their life looking for mom or dad to tell them how proud they are. Hey, you're doing great, son. You're doing awesome. Stay focused, stay in school, do your homework. But when you learn to do it for yourself, that's when things can change. And so because I kept studying, because I stayed focused, I ended up finishing the last 2 years of high school with high honors. I ended up getting accepted into college. I ended up changing my identity. And I told my mother, hey, look, I love you, I care about you, and I want the best for you. But I don't care if it's my friends at school or if it's my own parents. You're bad association. And so I love you, but I love God more. And so we'll always have a relationship, but we'll never have the relationship I wish we could have. And my mother, she had already lost her mom, and she didn't want to lose her son. So she started to change her life. She stopped drinking so heavy. She stopped going to the bars so much. She told my father to stop offering me weed, and maybe he could get off the drugs. And I eventually changed my life. 3 years later, at 21, I moved from Boston to Philadelphia. While I was in Philly, I received a phone call at 3 in the morning, and it was my sister. Now, if you ever receive a phone call at 3 in the morning, and it's a family member, typically something's wrong. And the person that it was my sister. And she told me, hey, she's gone. She's dead. Who? Who are you talking about? Mom. Yeah, Mom died in her sleep last night. See, at that moment, I started to bawl. And I started to think, how did my dad react when he lost his mom? How did my mom react when she lost her mom? And I didn't want to react the same way. I didn't want to have a nervous breakdown. Instead, I thought about the good things. I thought about how grateful I was that I got to see my mom transform her life. That I got to see my mom spend the last few years of her life in joy, just like her name. That I got to see my mom become someone that I was proud of. See, my mom and I, we started going to church together. We started holding hands together. We started hanging out together. And I would look my mom in the eyes, and she'd look at me, and I'd say, so proud of you. She'd say, I'm so proud of you, son. See, when you can learn to make the worst day of your life the best day of your life, that's when everything can shift. I tell you this story because it's never too late to have a happy childhood. You see, hurt people hurt people. But when you make the time to heal yourself, when you make the time to forgive yourself, only then do you have the opportunity to help and heal other people. And my father, well, he decided to clean up his life too. He got off drugs. He got off the streets. He got in and out of halfway homes. And in July of 2018, he decided he was done doing drugs. Fast forward 2 years, my father got remarried. And I was standing right next to him in his own wedding. Let's give my dad a round of applause. Yeah. You see, my dad changed his environment. He changed his identity. And when the why is strong enough, you can accomplish almost any how. You can't find this in a YouTube video. You can't find this on the internet. These are real life stories. And the same thing that happened to me can happen to you. You see, today I stand in front of you, a different man, someone that has a beautiful daughter, someone that has a successful business, a beautiful team, all because of a decision to change my life, a decision to show up differently. Because a lot of people, they want to be loved. Raise your hand if you want to be loved. Raise your hand if you want to be admired. Now, there's a lot of people in your life that you love, but there's a lot of people you don't admire. See, I loved my parents, but I didn't admire them. So a lot of us, we're loved, but are you admired? Not admired for what you did in the past, but what you're doing today. Not admired for what you've done in the past, but for what you're doing today. Regardless of what you've gone through, you can change that. Because what's interesting is, if you ask my sister, where is she today? Well, she's addicted to drugs. She battles addiction. And if you ask my sister, why did you turn out this way? We would both give you the same response. My father was a drug addict, and my mother was an alcoholic. See, it's not what happens to you in life, it's the meaning you attach to it. It's one for the notes. It's not what happens in life, it's the meaning you attach to it. See, I let my mother serve as an example. I let my father serve as an example of the way the bad things can happen if you overreact, if you hang out with the wrong people, if you don't change your association, if you don't give up those bad habits. Both of them started with one sip of alcohol, one little joint. But eventually they became addicted. Addicted because they couldn't face the reality of their problems, because they couldn't cope. So that was the only way they knew how. And what's interesting is, as a kid, my teachers told me I would never be doing this today. I stand up in front of you presenting. I get paid very well to present. I do stand-up comedy. I got a YouTube channel and a podcast because I'm constantly persuading, constantly doing presentations. And see, I didn't learn that ability in a book. I learned that while waiting up for my mom at 2 a.m. every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. Because my mom would drink and drive. She would come home drunk. And so I didn't feel comfortable going to bed at night, wondering if she's going to kill herself or kill somebody else. So when she walked through the door, I had to look into her eyes. I had to read her body language. And I had to calm her down. I said, hey, Mom, come on, let's go down to bed. No, you don't need to fight with my sister. You don't need to fight with my stepfather. Just go to bed. And her and my stepfather would fight ferociously. And I had to learn how to de-escalate that situation. I had to learn how to communicate. I didn't learn this in a book. So you can take the bad things that you think that have happened to you and use them. You can use it to fuel you, or you can use it as an excuse. You can become a victor or a victim. The choice is up to you. It doesn't matter what's happened to you in your past. All that matters is what you do today. Your past does not have to equal your future. It doesn't matter where you start. All that matters is where you end up. As a kid, my teacher said I could never present to you because growing up I had a massive lisp and a stutter. I told my mom at 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, hey, the kids in school, they're making fun of me. making fun of me because when I ask a question, I say, excuse me, Mrs. Teacher, can you please help me with this problem? They would laugh. It's okay to laugh. But they said, Ryan, you have these ambitions to present and go up in front of the classroom. It's not something that you can do. But after failing again and again and again, after years in speech therapy, I beat my lisp, I beat my stutter. And now I get paid to do the very thing that people said I could never do. Now, how much has a lack of confidence cost you in your own life? If you had more confidence, how many more opportunities would you have? See, people are afraid to pursue their dreams because they don't have enough confidence. But most people just don't understand how confidence works. Take off my jacket, it's 4,000 degrees in here. Does everyone in here understand how confidence works? Go ahead.
Confidence is presenting your flight.
Okay. All right. Didn't know you were looking in that direction. Normally it's the ladies looking in that direction, but that's okay. Whatever boosts my confidence, right? Now understand that if a person puts you under a pressure situation, that means they believe in you. But the question is, do you believe in yourself? When was the last time you bet on yourself? Ask yourself that. If somebody puts you under a pressure situation, that means that they believe in you. But do you believe in yourself? So when your manager says, hey, this is what I want you to do, they're putting you under pressure, right? But pressure is a privilege. But the question is, do you believe in yourself? When was the last time you bet on yourself? Every situation you put yourself in, it always starts with doubt. Am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to close this deal? Am I going to be able to hit my targets for the year? But see, you have to build a reputation of what you've done, not what you're going to do. You have to go and do it. Think about when you were a child. We were all born relentless. As a little kid, we'd run around, we'd do whatever we want. We didn't take no for an answer, but we were taught to relent. That's a good one for the notes. We were born relentless, but we were taught to relent. See, complaining does nothing, and there's nothing uglier than a bad attitude. The worst disability in life isn't losing your limbs, isn't losing your parents, it's having a bad attitude. The end result matters. Winning matters. Success matters. You're not just here to participate. You're not just here to be a spectator. You guys are here to win. They always ask Tom Brady, where I'm from, what's your favorite championship ring? The next one. What's your favorite sale? The next one. What was your best year? The next one. If you judge yourself based upon your past success, you'll lose admiration. People may admire you for what you have done, but do they admire you for what you're doing today? What you have to do is set unrealistic goals and then expect to achieve them. Set unrealistic goals and expect to achieve them. Question for you guys, are you more valuable than a $20 bill? Anybody have any cash on them? Someone close to me. Anybody? $20 bill, $100 bill? I'll give it back. This is perfect. Right? I gotta tip my hotel lady. Now this $100 bill, right, is very valuable. Who wants this? Come on, if you don't want a $100 bill, you're not gonna get that million. You gotta value that money. No, I'm not giving it away. But we all see value in this, right? So if I crumple up this $100 bill, who still wants it? Anybody? If I put it on the ground and I step on that $100 bill, who still wants it? Anybody? If I were to tear this thing, who wants it? Anybody? Okay. So if the $100 bill doesn't lose its value, why do you lose your value when someone steps on you? Why do you lose your value when someone rejects you? Why do you lose your value when someone says that you're not enough? Would you say that your life is more valuable than this $100 bill? Now, if you think the price from winning is too high, because it requires sacrifice, it requires focus. Maybe you drink, maybe you smoke weed, maybe you stay out on the weekends, maybe you party. Are you willing to pay that price? Because wait till you get the bill from regret. If you think the price from winning is too high, wait till you get the bill from regret. See, winning will cost you everything, but it will reward you with so much more. Losers do a little work and think they should be winning. And winners work as hard as possible and still wonder if they're being lazy. Do you think you're working too hard? Or do you think you're not working hard enough? Remember, if it were easy, losers would do it, right? If it were easy to make $1 million, everyone would have $1 million, right? If it were easy to be successful, everyone would be successful. But the second we leave this house, the second we leave this room, we run into what? Mediocrity. Average. And you have two choices. You can be obsessed with success, or you can be average. Which one would you rather choose? Success. Which one would you rather choose? Success. So my question to you is, why not you? Why not you? You see people in this room are earning over $1 million a year. Why not you? Is it because of what your parents told you? Is it because of your past? If there's one thing you can take away from my story, is that your past does not determine your future, your decisions do. Why can't you have a team? Why can't you be successful? Why can't you earn as much as you could possibly earn? Be as much as you could possibly be? Do as much as you could possibly do? Why not you? The man who goes to the gym only when he feels like it will always beat the man who only goes to the gym when he feels like it. You can't allow your emotions to dictate how you feel. And you can change that. The man who knocks on doors only when he feels like it will never beat the man who always knocks on doors regardless of how he feels. I'd write that one down. Don't let your emotions get in the way. See, all confident people are people who have high reputations with themselves. People who keep the promises they make to themselves. Who here hates it when a customer signs up and they cancel their contract? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you've ever had it canceled. But how many contracts do you break with yourself? Tomorrow's the day. I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. I'm going to start going to the gym. I'm going to build a business. I'm going to grow a team. This is the year I make as much money as possible. And then you're partying, you're hanging out, you're smoking weed, you're chilling, you're relaxing. Are you living up to your promises? Well, that's why we don't have confidence. Because confident people, they try as hard as possible to keep the promises they make to themselves. See, what gives you confidence is not being afraid. It's overcoming the fear. It's facing difficult things and overcoming them. You may not overcome them every day, but by facing them again and again and again, you tell yourself, I'm the kind of person that does difficult things. It's not in the comfort zone, it's in the discomfort zone where your confidence grows. Not in the comfort zone. Maybe you're comfortable getting 5 deals a month. Maybe you're comfortable getting 10 deals a month. And you can do that, but it won't grow your confidence. When you stretch yourself, and you hit 12 for the first time, you hit 15 for the first time, you hit 20 for the first time, you have a $5,000 month, then a $10,000 month, then a $15,000 month. Some people in here make 80 grand a month. Are they satisfied? No, because they're not working for a paycheck. They're just trying to work to their potential. See, self-esteem does not come from what others say about you. That's external. Self-esteem is earned within yourself. It's esteem for yourself, which only comes from doing things that are incredibly difficult. Then your brain goes, this is who I am? I'm a winner. I'm the kind of person that does difficult things. You see, you'll never out-earn your own self-image. You'll never out-earn your own self-worth. If you don't believe in yourself, how do you expect anyone else to believe in you? If you don't think you're worth it, no one else is going to think you're worth it. So you don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror. I'm handsome. I'm amazing. I can do this. I like myself. I like myself. You can do that. But you become confident not by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but by having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. I'm a closer, but I don't close any deals. I'm a badass, but you can't even keep the promises you make to yourself. Outwork your self-doubt. See, the life you're enjoying or not enjoying, this is key, is a reflection of the price you've paid up until now. So if you're not driving the car you want, if you're not living in the house you want, if you don't have the paychecks you want, if your bank account doesn't look like something you're proud of, it's a direct reflection on the price you've paid up until now. What sacrifices have you made? What bad habits have you given up? See, the life you enjoy in the future will be a reflection of the price you pay from today onward. What are you willing to give up in 2024? What changes are you willing to make? What price are you willing to pay? Self-confidence comes from knowing you poured it on. Knowing that you did the best you possibly can. Let me ask you, if you went to work and you didn't get a sale, but you did everything you said you were going to do. You showed up in the field on time, you worked as many hours as you possibly could, you got rejection after rejection, but you did the best you possibly can. Was that a successful day? Yes. Was that a successful day? Yes. Work while they sleep, learn while they party, save while they spend, and one day you can live. You can live like they dream. See, that's what gives you the edge. That's what builds your confidence. Knowing that you're willing to do what other people are not willing to do. Knowing you're willing to pay the price that other people are not willing to pay. I want to be a millionaire. Great. You willing to give up the weekends? You willing to give up a little bit of sleep? You willing to start saving? Stop spending your money to impress people you don't even like? Because if you are, one day you can live like the rest of the world dreams. See, dare to dream while the rest of the world is having a nightmare. Write that down. Dare to dream while the rest of the world is having a nightmare. Don't pray for an easy life, pray for the strength to endure a difficult one. Don't wish things were easy, wish you were better. Don't pray for an easy life, pray for the strength to endure a difficult one. And if you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into somebody else's life plan. And guess what they have planned for you? Not much. If you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into somebody else's life plan. And guess what they have planned for you? Not much. See, formal education, high school, college, that'll make you a living. But self-education, what you're doing here today, books, courses, productive videos on YouTube and on the internet, that will make you a fortune. But don't let your learning lead to knowledge. Let your learning lead to action. Knowledge is like paint. It's useless unless it's applied. Knowledge is like paint. It's useless unless it's applied. Confidence is the willingness to try. The skill of confidence is competency. And everyone starts at zero. How many of you here crawled before you walked? Okay. How many of you here crawled before you walked? See, when you learned to walk, you had no confidence. But we had people around us saying, come on, man, you can do it. You can do it. I believe in you. Walk to mom, walk to dad. And it's no wonder nearly everyone on planet Earth walks. Magic formula. You fail, you fail, you fail, and then eventually you figure it out. It doesn't matter where you start. What matters is where you end up and what you're willing to do to get there. The sacrifices that you're willing to take. Doesn't matter where you are today. All that matters is what you're willing to do in order to hit your goal. In order to have the best year ever. The best life ever. See, I'm busy doing what most people will never do so I can live the life most people will never live. I want everyone to say that with me. I'm busy doing. See, on any given day, you could massively change your life. Murder is a clear example that on any given day, you can change your life forever. It just happens to be a negative one. But as sure as you can commit a negative act, you can also commit a positive act. Is that not true? A man hates the way his car looks. He hates the way his car drives. He goes out to the back of his house, takes a shotgun, loads every single barrel into that car, and says, I will never drive this again. And no one else will ever drive this car again. And he leaves it there as a monument for what he's no longer willing to stand for. He raised his standard. Now, if you don't like how things are, change it. You're not a tree. If you don't like where you live, change it. If you don't like your company, change it. If you don't like yourself, change yourself. If you don't like your relationship, change it. You see, we've all been given the dignity of choice. Write that down. You have the dignity of choice. If you don't like how things are, change it. And how long should you try? Until you figure it out. Until you hit your goal. When I said I couldn't keep up with the other kids in the class, I said, I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep learning. When I didn't speak like the other kids, I said, it's okay, I'm going to keep trying. Until I learn it, until I master it. See, it isn't what the book costs, it's what it will cost you if you don't read it. How many in here like to read books? Let me rephrase that. How many in here read books? Because I don't like to read. But I do it anyway. Because they say the average CEO in a Fortune 500 company reads 52 books a year. How many books have you read? Half the country reads one book a year, and half of those are romance novels. You want to stand out from the rest of the world? All the knowledge, all the wealth, everything you seek is in a book. Somebody dedicated 10, 20, 30 years of their life and consumed it in a 6-hour book. That's how you convert decades into days. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. We're showing up every day, we're knocking doors, we're visiting families, we're trying hard. But how much time are you spending working on you? How much time are you spending working on your mindset? How much time are you spending working on your skill set? How much time are you spending working on your habits? Let others lead small lives, but not you. Let others argue over small things, but not you. Let others cry over small hurts, but not you. Let others leave their future in somebody else's hands, but not you. See, it's not what happens to you that decides where you end up. It's the meaning you attach to it. You can either blame your childhood or your circumstances for why you can't ever be successful, or you can use it. Use it to fuel you. Use it to drive you to make the most of your life, to be the example of what's possible, that anyone can succeed in spite of adversity, in spite of the circumstances. When you wonder, how do I build my confidence? You do it with deliberate practice, by failing again and again and again. You do it with the relentless pursuit to get better, and eventually, as your skills improve, your self-esteem starts to grow. You start to stack wins, and you start to provide evidence to your brain that you are enough, that anything is possible. Everyone say, anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
As long as you're committed.
As long as you're committed.
You see, the road to paradise starts in hell. That's because you first have to accept what you're bad at. You first have to accept what you're lacking, what needs to improve. Then you spend every week, every morning, working on those skills, little by little. Eventually, your confidence starts to grow. Eventually, you become someone you're proud of. Eventually, you become someone others admire. Eventually, you start to see the example of what's possible. We'll go back to that. Now, here are some general tips on boosting your confidence. Find a lot of this on the internet. You can find this online. I didn't come here to share general knowledge. I came here to tell you guys a story that you can remember a year from now, a story that you can remember 5 years from now, a story that you can remember for the rest of your life. But it's only when you make a decision does your life change. See, the decisions you make determine the roads you take. Write that down. The decisions you make determine the roads you take. Everyone got that? Okay. Can someone tell me why body language is important when it comes to confidence? Okay. No one can tell me? So if I stood up here and I was slouched down and I didn't move my body and I didn't move my arms and I kept my head down and I knocked doors and I said, hey, are you the homeowner? Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name's Ryan. This is my team. We actually work with all of you neighbors here within the community. We have for the past couple of years. What I do and what I've done is help so many of your neighbors redirect the money that they would normally throw away to the local utility company to putting it back into the equity and value of their house with solar. See, I had the right words. But did my body language portray confidence? Would you trust me? You think I trust myself? See, a lot of people, they come up to me and they say, man, Ryan, I don't know what it is, man. I'm just so depressed. I don't know why I'm always so depressed. Well, first thing, you got to lift your head up. You got to start talking louder. You got to start breathing. You have to start moving your body. Who here works out? And before you go to the gym, you feel like crap. After you leave the gym, how do you feel? Amazing. Why? Because you're moving your body. So if you approach that door and say, hey, are you the homeowner? Awesome, a pleasure to meet you. My name is Ryan. I actually work with all of the homeowners here within the community. I have for the past 7 years. What I do and what I've done is very different than a lot of the people that have already come to your house. No, somebody's already came by. That's okay. They always send the amateurs first. I'm a professional. They're going to read me a lot different, right? They're going to be interested in what I have to say, right? Because if the last guy came and he said, yeah, man, I don't know, you interested in the solar thing or what? You're not going to get the best reaction. But when you have strong body language, strong posture, it changes the way you feel and it changes the way people perceive you. Celebrate small wins. I don't care if it's brushing your teeth, waking up in the morning, reversing your car into a parking spot. In 2024, I'm going to reverse my car into every single parking spot. You start to become mindful of the things that you're doing, rather than just living your life aimlessly. I don't care if it's every day I'm going to hold the door for somebody. Every day I'm going to do a small act of kindness. Focus on the things you can control, and you start to stack those small wins, and that starts to build your confidence. Deposit some positive thoughts into your mental bank account. If every single day somebody came into your living room and dumped a pile of trash, dumped a pile of trash, dumped a pile of trash, eventually you'd say, hey man, what are you doing? Why are you putting trash in my house? But every single day we allow other people to dump mental garbage into our mind. Hey man, did you hear what happened? Yeah, I don't know about this election. Yeah, Johnny, he's not even working that hard, and this job sucks, and I just can't handle this, and I'm depressed. Hey man, get away from me. Okay? I just tested positive for on my grind. And if you're not on your grind, stay the hell away from me. And sometimes you have to act as if. If you're not worth $1 million, how would a millionaire walk? How would a millionaire talk? How would they spend their day? What does their calendar look like? How does their schedule appear? How do they treat others? How do they show up? Act as if. Take confident action. See, confidence comes from confidence. The better you get at something, the more confident you're going to feel. Adopt a growth mindset. A fixed mindset says, hey, I'm broken, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I have a lisp, I have no future. I can't change, this is just who I am. A growth mindset says, hey, that may be who I am today, but I'm going to change that. Improve your self-talk. Most people talk worse to themselves than they would to any other human being. Practice gratitude. How many in here write what they're grateful for every day? Okay, 3 people, 4 people. Something I've done every day for over 4 years is I journal. I've never missed a day. Because a life worth living is a life worth recording. And if you have nothing to write down at the end of the day, maybe you need to reevaluate your life. Create healthy routines. Work out in the morning. Eat healthy foods. Eat things that make you feel good. Food is fuel. If it drains your energy, it's not good for you. If God made it, it's probably good. If humans made it, probably bad. Super simple. Unlock the power of proximity. Get to know high achievers. Put yourself in an environment with people that force you to level up. If you want to get great at tennis, you don't play with a 5-year-old. Sure, you'll win. But if you play with Serena Williams, you're automatically going to become great. Because you just have to try a little harder just to stay on the court. Feed your mind. Listen to positive videos on YouTube, podcasts, courses, ideas, tailor. Talk to as many positive people as possible and feed your mind. Live in the present. Because depressed people, insecure people, they live in the past. They're depressed because they think about the past, and the thing about the past is you can't change it. Worried people, they live in the future, and they're worried because they can't change it. But happy people, they live in the present, because that's the only thing you have control over. And lastly, rewrite your story. All right, now I want everyone to stand up. I want everyone to place your hand on your heart. Stand up, place your hand on your heart. Can you feel your heartbeat? Yeah. See that a heartbeat? It's precious. When a baby is born, the brain isn't formed yet, but the heart is formed. It's the first sign of life. And that heart is with you until the day you die. And that next heartbeat, that isn't promised. You might only have one more heartbeat to love. You might only have one more heartbeat to care. You may only have one more heartbeat to become successful, to set the example. You may only have one more heartbeat for others to love you. One more heartbeat for others to admire you. One more heartbeat to live your dream. Today you shared with me your most expensive commodity, your heartbeats. See, I thought my mother would be around forever, and I was wrong. She had a limited number of heartbeats left. And today I thank you for sharing your heartbeats with me, and with all of my heartbeats, I thank you.